Carrie Bradshaw a bad friend? Sex and the City has been making a comeback on streaming platforms like Hulu and Netflix. As of late, Gen Z viewers have now become hooked into the show, and millennials too have been so happy to see Gen Z enjoying the show that they absolutely loved. And I've seen a lot of discussion lately around social media about Carrie as a character, because she's always been kind of a controversial character. Either she's seen as overhated, or she's seen as someone that was praised and had main character syndrome, and actually a lot of her flaws were really overlooked. And I wanted to discuss the concept of friendship in Sex and the City because it's such a core theme of the show. You can see that all four of these friends really care about each other. They love spending time together. They make each other laugh. They're always in each other's lives. And I have been doing my rewatch of the show, and I was really surprised to see that Carrie relates in a slightly different way to the other girls than how they relate to her. I guess because she's more of like the main character. And I wanted to dissect that today because I saw a really worrying thing pop up in quite a few scenes that I wasn't seeing present in the same way with the other girls.
As if we didn't have enough problems.
In season 4's Ring-a-Ding-Ding, Carrie is experiencing some financial problems. She wants to buy her apartment back from her ex Aidan. She can't afford it, and she actually goes to her friend Charlotte to ask for money. Now, Charlotte believes that people should be financially responsible for themselves, that Carrie's an adult, that she needs to find a solution. And Carrie is so genuinely mortified and offended and angry that her friend wouldn't want to give her money. And she genuinely believes that Charlotte has committed some sort of offense. And this is just one of many examples of Carrie's entitlement. And I couldn't help but wonder, is Carrie Bradshaw actually not that great a friend? So I will preface this by saying that Carrie Bradshaw was never a bad friend, and none of the girls in the show I would ever say, oh, she's a bad friend, she's a bad person. Like, I don't agree with this mentality. But what I did notice is that you can care for someone as Carrie cares for her friends, have good intentions for them, want the best for them, or genuinely love them, but not necessarily be good for them or love them in a particularly healthy way or communicate with them in a healthy way. And I would say this is more the problem with Carrie. It's not that she wants to ruin her friend's day, or that she wants to like cause them pain, or that she doesn't care about them. Like, that's never going to be the point of this video, because you can see that she loves spending time with them, otherwise she wouldn't be hanging out with them so much. So clearly they really love each other, but it's just more the way that she dumps her personal trauma onto them and doesn't really hold herself accountable when she stresses them out. And there's often a lack of resolution when conflicts come up in the friendship that genuinely gives me pause. I see with all the girls, they've all had their bad moments where they didn't really consider each other's feelings. Like, it happens. One time Samantha slept with Charlotte's brother and didn't ask her permission at all and just took it way too far. But overall, the other girls are pretty consistent in how they show up for each other. They're on time. They're very reliable, I would say. Whereas with Carrie, she consistently proves herself to prioritize other things over her friends in this very male-centered way, aka her romantic relationship with Mr. Big, or honestly any guy. And this is the big difference I was seeing in the show, is male-centeredness. Whenever Carrie sees her friends, she takes the opportunity to talk about Mr. Big. Like, she doesn't really listen when they talk. Like, she redirects the conversation. Often they'll say something, like Miranda will talk about something going on in her life, and Carrie will feign listening and then make some weird attempt to bring it back to Mr. Big in a way that honestly doesn't really feel relevant to the conversation. Like, as long as they're talking about her and her situation, she's happy to be there. But it really seems very selfish. And Carrie was often selfish in her relationship with Mr. Big. She felt that she was owed attention, owed reciprocity, owed love, that she could bulldoze him into loving her back and expressing his feelings, that she could bulldoze him into meeting his mother, like his boundaries were not respected. She just wanted to barge her way into his life. But the problem is that it also comes out in the way she is with her friends, because she doesn't ask them at any time, like, hey, is it cool if we talk about this? She just starts talking about it. Like, she'll just be like, okay guys, we're talking about Mr. Big now. And at first the girls don't seem to mind. They're happy to give advice. They like talking about it. But after a while, she's just kicking a dead horse, going over and over it, and spending most of her time complaining and venting to her friends about it. And if it's not about him, then it's about Aidan or some other sort of romantic situation that she's experienced. Not to take action or to learn anything or to do something with the information. It's just more to just talk at them, more like. And it's just to hear herself talk. It's not really to do anything constructive with the conversation. They go around in circles, and she really doesn't either want to hear how they feel about it. If they're actually real with her, she doesn't want that. Her girlfriends try to address this a few times with her, especially after things go really sour with Big, and they suggest maybe that she sees a therapist. And Samantha says, frankly, we're all sick of you talking about Big. We're sick of hearing about it. And Carrie says, I don't need a therapist, I need new friends. And she describes therapy as self-indulgent. So she really isn't reading the room. And after her breakup with Big around, I think, season 2 or 3, Carrie is going around just talking constantly about how Mr. Big is going to regret this for the rest of his life and how she was so out of his league. She's like, I was it, I was that thing, I was the spark in the relationship, he was nothing, and who cares about him anyway? And she's just going on and on and on about it. And we see this, I think, in the intro to season 2, when we learn that Carrie hasn't really been speaking to her friends for like a month. She's shut herself away in her room because she was grieving the ending of her relationship with Mr. Big. And so it really seems like when things are going sour with Mr. Big, she just loses the capacity to function. Like, she functions pretty well when stuff is going fine and when there's not some big drama with Mr. Big. But the minute something is going on with Mr. Big, she cannot talk about anything else other than him. And it honestly gets annoying because the other girls genuinely like do what they can to support. When Carrie finds out that Big's getting married to Natasha and she sees it in the newspaper, the other girls, especially Miranda, are really kind. They give her a hug, they console her, they say, this must be really hard for you, Carrie. So they genuinely do care. But when they start to get frustrated is when she goes back to him and becomes the other woman, and then she goes and she hangs out with him even though he's married, and she does certain behaviors that the other girls find really inexcusable and indefendable, and they're not able to defend it anymore. They just see an objectively insane action where it feels like she's just being pulled back into it again.
He wasn't the right man for you.
I know that. I know. It's not him. It's the whole wedding.
At first it just seems quirky, or like she's just genuinely in love and she just wants to talk about it with her friends, but at points it starts to seem really, really dominating, especially when she seems to think that her problems with Big are like more important than anything else that's going on. For example, when Charlotte gets engaged, Carrie seems to believe that her breakup with Berger, whatever his name is more important, and that should be like the hot event. And it's not just that she spends a lot of time talking about him, which she does. It's that when Big or Aidan is in the picture, she will ditch her friends to go and spend time with them. Like, even in the second movie, she made dinner plans with Aidan. She had dinner already organized with the girls, but she ditches them without communicating to go and have dinner with Aidan. And they're like, this is a bad idea, Carrie. why would you do that? And it happens earlier in the show too, when she wants to have veal at Mr. Big's place. She bails on her dinner plans with Miranda to go and hang out with Big. Miranda is genuinely hurt. Carrie doesn't say sorry once, which really stood out to me, that she just didn't care. Like, she had no empathy, and she was like, okay, it's not a big deal, Miranda. Like, I'm having veal with Mr. Big. Like, I don't care. She really, truly does not care about them when he is in the picture, because his needs come first. And it was never more prevalent to me than at the wedding, which I think was in season 2. Their friend gets married and Carrie drags Mr. Big to the event. He's very unpleasant with his behavior. He doesn't really socialize or make an effort. He doesn't even listen to her speech, but because he wants to leave early and he's not having a good time anymore, even though the other girls are staying on for a bit, Carrie's like, actually, me and Big are gonna head home now. So whatever he does or he suggests or he dictates, she just goes along with it, even if it means potentially abandoning her friends. And same thing with Aidan. When he invites her to her cabin, she's bored, so she calls up Samantha. But it's not really because she genuinely wanted to prioritize Samantha or that Samantha was her first priority. It's just that she was bored. Like, there's literally no other explanation for it. And it's fine, like, when you have a relationship, of course it's exciting, you want to spend time with this person, you want to be with them, but she didn't really seem to care about the fact that they were there for her and he never was. She also doesn't like taking accountability, which is even potentially a bigger issue than the not listening when they share anything thing. But when she bails on them to go and have dinner with Aidan in the second movie, she gets really nasty when Charlotte says to her that she's playing with fire, and she makes some insulting comment about Charlotte's marriage. She lashes out and gets nasty when they call her out. In season 2, when she wants to get back with Big, they're all telling her, Carrie, he broke your heart, maybe this isn't a good idea, he was so mean to you. And she's like, oh, you guys don't get it, like, forget it, I'm not going to explain anything to you anymore. And when Miranda brings it up again later, I think over lunch, Carrie's like, you know what, I was going to share more about things with Big, but you guys are so not understanding, you just don't get it, that I just don't feel, I'm not even going to bother sharing it with you, because you guys just, you're all making me uncomfortable. So she gets extremely defensive, and Miranda is the one who is the most real out of all the girls. Miranda is the one who the most often is like, hey, I don't think anything's changed when it comes to Mr. Big. Like, we're all talking about how much he's changed, but I don't see any solid proof that things are any different between you guys this time. She's being really upfront about the fact that he doesn't seem to have improved his behavior. And Carrie's like, no, he has, forget it. I'm not going to talk to you about it, like, whatever. So she's really not interested. Same with starting therapy. She does it for like one episode and then she decides that it's not for her, and she gets very, very defensive around it. She doesn't want to take the feedback, and a lot of her issues also boil down to her inability to just show up for her friends in the same way they show up for her when something bad happens with Big. Like, they always show up for her when she needs them. Like, for example, when she calls Miranda in the rain, Miranda had told her that she was sick of them talking about dating all the time. She had said very explicitly, guys, we're successful women. Why is it that we're spending so much time talking about boys? I feel like we have other things to be doing. Like, I don't want to, this is very amateur. Carrie knew that Miranda felt that way, but she still called her up with the boy drama and was like, I need you. And Miranda, despite everything she said, she dropped it to look after Carrie. And she was like, I'm sorry, Carrie. I understand that. I understand that you're hurt, and I'm gonna like be there for you, basically. And it was kind of like that on repeat. And the thing is that then when it comes to just general stuff outside of dating, just when the girls need Carrie to be reliable for something, she's just not. Miranda hurts her neck badly after getting out of the shower, and Carrie has something else going on, so rather than showing up to help her, she sends Aidan. She doesn't meet them where they're meeting her in terms of empathy and emotional support. It seems very out of balance. And I think it's easy to dislike her therefore as a character, or to say that she's badly written, or to hate on her. But the interesting thing is that that's kind of what makes Carrie such a great character, is that she does have these flaws. She doesn't date good guys or nice guys. She does neglect her friends. She genuinely takes her friends for granted in a way and just uses them to trauma dump and to vent. But in a way, that's what makes her such a good character, because maybe it points to things that we need to work on within ourselves. Like maybe her genuine human flaws are things that we ourselves feel uncomfortable around because we've done the exact same thing without thinking of the consequences. So maybe we don't like her because she reminds us of ourselves or things we used to do. And it would be so easy to act all morally superior and be like, oh my god, she's such a trash friend. But I think a lot of people have had those situations where they do come to their friends with stuff, take up their friends' time with things, when they probably should have just talked it out with a therapist. Like there's so many ways we can use up our friends' time and just make them sit there and listen to it without thinking about maybe if that's a little bit selfish or if there's something else that they would rather be doing. In season 6, episode 20, Carrie's moved to Paris for her boyfriend, which is another example of how she'll just uproot her life and leave her friends to go abroad with some random guy she barely knows. But she actually met a new friend group there, and she was happy because she found it so difficult to socially integrate in Paris. And they actually throw her some sort of, I think it was like a party, or it was like a, yeah, it was a party, but she stands them up for her boyfriend's art exhibit. So she very regularly like stands people up or doesn't show up for them when they need her. Carrie abandons a blindfolded Charlotte to go and buy shoes. That's in season 6, episode 13. And in season 5, episode 7, we have this absolute disaster involving Carrie's treatment of Samantha. Carrie goes to California for her book launch, and she invites Samantha to come with her to show moral support. The thing about Samantha is she's always helping out with Carrie's PR stuff, whether it's throwing a book launch or a party. She's always really supportive, and I don't feel that Carrie like reciprocates that same level of help and support. But Carrie insists that they take a cross-country train. She spends the entire hour and then the next hour and the next hour complaining about a pimple on her nose and just being very, very unpleasant. It's not like a nice travel. And when they arrive, Carrie actually sees Mr. Big and is determined to hook up with him. Now, she takes him back to the hotel room, and Samantha's relaxing and having a bath. Carrie's like, okay, you need to get out because we're going to use this room. And she insists that Samantha uses the small room so her and Big can use the big room. I think it happens twice in the show when she tries to remove Samantha from a room when Samantha's just having a bath, you know, or relaxing. And then afterwards, Samantha asks how it went with Big and if it went okay. And Carrie's like, oh my god, I didn't sign up for the Q&A session. Like, I'm not interested in answering your questions. So she also doesn't even give Samantha the scoop on what happened. And then weirdly, she gets rewarded because Samantha says she's gonna get them first class tickets by plane back home so they don't need to do the train journey again. Like, they're so genuinely like giving with her. Like, Samantha even helped Carrie in like season 2 when her diaphragm got stuck. They're so genuinely giving and helping, and Carrie doesn't really seem to reciprocate it, especially when it comes to her treatment of Samantha. She's very regularly mean and passive aggressive to Samantha as the show goes on. And whether it's making fun of Charlotte for being traditional and more conservative or not doing certain things sexually, she also shames Samantha with these weird passive aggressive jokes for being promiscuous, and it comes across as more judgy than just sharing a joke, like more laughing at her than laughing with her. And we see this later when Samantha throws this event for Carrie, which is again some sort of book launch thing, and it's in season 5, episode 5. Samantha had a chemical peel, so she turns up but her face is really red. She actually looked really ill, and rather than Carrie like checking that she was okay, she starts making these horrible jokes about how Samantha looks ugly and these snide remarks, and then she basically insists that Samantha leaves the event because she's scaring the guests.
I wanted to be super fresh for the party.
Well, you are. You look like beef carpaccio.
She also judges Samantha for hooking up with her delivery man. There's just like a lot of shaming and judging going on. And I feel like the core thing about being friends with someone or being in any kind of relationship with them is that you can give them tips, sure, and see if they implement it. But ultimately, like, they either accept the feedback and do it or they don't. But you can't be like constantly shaming them and judging them for their decisions, or controlling them, or expecting them to operate and think and behave in the exact same way that you do, because that's honestly just very controlling, and everybody does things differently. Everybody has a different way of operating, and just because they do it differently to you, or they want to live their life in a way that you personally wouldn't, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with their choices. Carrie also just keeps her friends out of the loop a lot when it comes to Big, because she's genuinely ashamed that she's dating him again. Around season 3, episode 11, she starts having an affair with Big, and she lies to Charlotte about it. Like, she's going behind everyone's back and not being honest that she is actually the other woman and having this affair. It happened again around season 2 when they'd stop seeing each other and then they start seeing each other again, where she's sneaking around and worried about being judged, and she knows it's kind of the wrong thing to do. And she bumps into Miranda on the street after seeing Big, and she's like, oh, I've got to go to my appointment and I have this on and I have that on. And the girls are really mad when they find out that she's been lying to them. And I have mixed feelings about it. I think that obviously if they don't like him and they don't approve, maybe she just got embarrassed and she didn't feel comfortable like sharing that with them, and she felt like they would make fun of her, so she thought it was best to maybe not hurt their feelings and just keep it private. But the thing about Carrie is she's very, very open about everything, and she's basically never private. Like, she's always looking for an opportunity to share. So in this case, it just more to me felt like she knew that he was bad and that she was doing the wrong thing by seeing him at all, and she knew that they would give her really honest feedback about why it was a bad idea and tell her the way it is, and she didn't want to hear it.
Waiter, another double vodka rocks for the birthday girl, please.
The truth was, vodka was my only ally.
I think that the issue isn't so much that Carrie made mistakes with how she behaved. I'm not expecting her to be, honest all the time and tell them everything, but it's just more the lack of discussion and the lack of resolution or growth after these incidents happen. Like, for example, when Miranda hurt herself and Carrie was meant to be Miranda's emergency contact and didn't show up for her and sent Steve instead, like, was that messed up? Sure, like, of course it was messed up, but it's also like the follow through and the resolution of that makes it even worse. Like, the next day, Miranda thinks that maybe Carrie's coming to apologize because Carrie turns up at her apartment because they're gonna have bagels, and she's like carrying the bagels. And then Miranda realizes with horror that Carrie's actually come with an ulterior motive because she wants to talk about some gossip involving Aidan. And Miranda's like, seriously? Like, did you come because you feel bad and you want to apologize, or is it just because you want to talk about your boyfriend? And then she realizes that Carrie hasn't even brought cream cheese or toppings for the bagels. No one also really talks about this, but I think a lot of Carrie's worst friendship moments are also with Stanford. Like, he's her gay friend. He's like a sort of supporting character we see pop up here and there. They have some nice moments, but she really treats him like this sort of side accessory that she can pick up and drop whenever she feels like it. And she spends most of the time again with him talking about Big or about Aidan. I think in general, the issue is the lack of learning. Like, it's fine if she's doing this in season 1, 2, and 3. We all have messed up. It's normal to mess up and have conflict and be a bad friend and make mistakes and learn and grow. But even in season 6, Carrie wants to move to Paris and she's not listening when people are trying to tell her that that's a really bad idea. And as always, Miranda is the one to be really upfront and give her honest feedback and say, Carrie, I don't think that you should be moving to Paris, and gives her really valid reasons as to why that's just not a logical and not a good idea for this random dude, and Carrie doesn't want to hear it. She obviously gets defensive, she gets annoyed. Also, I think Charlotte had asked her very explicitly, because she was getting married, not to bring any drama into it regarding Aidan and Big. And I'm pretty sure that Carrie didn't listen, and on the morning of Charlotte's wedding, she admitted to Aidan that she'd had an affair with Big, which obviously caused like a huge drama. I feel like Carrie was really lucky to have the friends that she did as well, because she had a good balance. Like Samantha would often laugh and make a joke when Carrie talked about something and not take it seriously. Charlotte would be the more positive one, like the optimist, and she would romanticize everything and be more forgiving. And Miranda would be the one who was very upfront and blunt and just tell her it like it is and just be really real with her. And especially when it came to Miranda, I felt that Carrie didn't really like appreciate her. Even when Miranda had a baby, obviously she's the first of the group to have a baby, there's all these changes, she's breastfeeding, she's having sleepless nights, like it's a whole thing, and Carrie just didn't seem very understanding towards how difficult that was. She doesn't really care about supporting her, she just wants to talk about Aidan the whole time. She's grossed out by the breastfeeding. Like, I get it, okay, not everyone wants to have kids, not everyone thinks that other people's kids are cute. You don't need to like breastfeeding, you don't need to think that your friend's kid is cute and want to babysit them. Like, if it's not your thing, kids aren't for you, it's fine. Like, it's totally, like, you don't need to force yourself to be into something you're not into. But it was just more the generally, like, judgmental attitude. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to, on Carrie's part, this very subtle narcissism. She's very self-serving. Her talking about Big so much just to whinge was self-serving, and in a way she believed that she was justified to do so. Like, she did therapy for about an episode, but she didn't seem to learn or take away anything useful from it. She expects her friends to just carry all the emotional labor for her, to just be endlessly forgiving, endlessly tolerant, and that they just have, I guess, this endless like supply of energy to just support and listen to it. She's never been the most self-aware, but it really came to a head in season 5, episode 6, when she spent a lot of the episode basically obsessing over Aidan and whether or not he was telling people that she had broken his heart or how he was talking about her to other people. Now, Stanford, her friend, is in a happy relationship at the time. He's just in a really good mood. Like, he doesn't want to have to, you know, be burdened with that. It's a very negative energy. He listens, and then after a while he asks Carrie if she has any thoughts on his new boyfriend. And then she gives him like a one-word response, and then she launches back into talking about Aidan again. Then Stanford, completely of his own right, it's totally fair enough, calls her out and he says, look, Carrie, I've had to put up with this for years, listening to you discuss your turbulent relationships, the cheating, hearing you vent, hearing you obsess over it, and you know, often I'm also single myself, but I'm listening to it, and that's really self-absorbed because now I've actually got a relationship myself. And it was the same thing when Miranda became a new mum. She was sleep deprived, she had a baby, she had stuff going on, and she had to sit there and listen to Carrie call her and spiral over Aidan. So yeah, a lot of these moments probably should have been the moment when her friends either blocked her or told her that they really needed to set a boundary in order for the friendships to be equal and healthy. She blames Miranda for Big leaving her at the altar, even though it was literally not Miranda's fault at all and Miranda had nothing to do with it. A lot of it comes down to, unfortunately, Carrie not fully growing up and her immaturity and inability to really grow up and become a high-functioning, independent adult. And I definitely can kind of, I don't want to say the word relate, but I can totally relate to that, like when you're kind of coming into your own and you don't want to make a decision, or you've got a big decision to make, or you're looking for some kind of guidance outside of yourself so you don't need to take responsibility. So naturally you delegate, or you go seeking advice or another opinion, maybe another perspective. Like sometimes that happens, especially because obviously handling it privately is the more mature thing to do. But in Carrie's case, a lot of the time it just really seemed like she just wanted to relish in like the drama of everything. She implies that Samantha is a desperate woman who will believe anything after she wants to get back with Richard, which is just hilarious and just so hypocritical coming from Carrie of all people, who literally has been dating Big on and off for years with no ring, no commitment. Charlotte turns 36, they take a trip to Atlantic City, and Carrie makes this weird comment about how Charlotte's slut central because she's dressed differently to how she normally dresses, in a more revealing pink outfit, and a lot of men are staring at her and giving her attention. And it honestly seems like Carrie is like salty about this, or annoyed that Charlotte is getting more attention than she usually does. These two guys come over and want to buy them drinks, and Charlotte's really excited about this, but Carrie's annoyed and acts all sulky because she just wanted it to be the two of them. So the two guys are encouraged to leave, which again is really selfish, because what if Charlotte, who's single, wants to talk to these guys and she wants to meet someone that night? In the next scene, well, it's been a while, but they're like on the tram or going to go to the tram, and Charlotte admits that she's still upset about how the whole night went down and Carrie's behavior, and Carrie's like, oh, I can't believe you're still upset about that. And then she ditches her to go and get taffy, and again, this was on Charlotte's birthday. I don't think it's fair to say though that friendships should be perfect, because no friendship is at fault. And when you like put your friendships on a pedestal, you think, oh, we have the perfect friendship, or oh, we have the perfect relationship. I think that's not fair, because you're kind of idealizing that person and holding them to a very, very high standard, and then you're going to be even more disappointed and not be able to handle it when a normal conflict comes up or there's a disagreement. But I think the most important thing is also how those disagreements are talked about and resolved afterwards, not just necessarily the conflict itself, but it's how it's communicated. I think at the end of the day though, all these women are flawed and have issues, and I'm focusing more on Carrie in this video because the male-centeredness really bothered me, because it was at the expense of her friends. But there's been toxic moments in general within this friendship group, like with anything. Like when Charlotte was getting married to Trey, Miranda's cynicism really got in the way there, because they were all being so negative and totally like raining on Charlotte's parade and just almost shaming her, like making her feel bad about wanting to get married so soon, and not just really sharing and embracing in the joy with her. I think what's nice is they don't hold grudges against each other for long. They tend to stay pretty positive overall about each other and pick themselves up and move on from things relatively quickly. Like they don't really have massive feuds that last for like 2 seasons where they don't talk or they ghost each other. So in that sense it's good, because they've got a very strong bond. But I do think that a lot of the issues in their relationship with each other would have been resolved, and they would have had far better relationships in general if, when they noticed an issue coming up that was a concern, if they just talked about it and dissected it and nipped it in the bud then and there, like with Carrie talking so much about Big, and if they really like addressed it to stop it from happening again, like then and there in the moment, so that it wouldn't keep like resurfacing again later in the show. But this was just something I noticed from watching certain scenes. I'm really curious to know what you guys think, and I will see you for the next video. Bye guys!